I'm very honored to be invited. Thanks a lot to Sunny. And I'm looking forward to a nice day with you. Unfortunately, I don't speak Korean, so my presentation will be in English. But I know that you read lots of documents and tutorials and installation instructions in English, so probably it will be okay. So the title is the OSGeo Foundation, Professionally Leveraging Open Source Geospatial. And I will start with free software and open source, what you probably already know, but I think it's good to reiterate and look at things again so that you can explain it to other people too. My name is Arnulf Christl, and you see Metaspatial, that's my little company. We are 3 people. It's me, myself, and I. And I work as a geospatial systems architect. And because they pay me so well for the work I do, I have lots of time to be president of OSGeo and to work in the OGC architecture board and at the OpenStreetMap as an advocate. So these jobs, I really like to do them, but they're not paid. So I'm founder of several companies and initiatives, and I travel a lot, probably too much, and provide consulting for SDI, Spatial Data Infrastructures. So what do? I do consulting and implementation of spatial data infrastructures and metadata. Metadata is great. Metadata is interesting. Metadata is fun. Usually in Europe they say, no, metadata is horrible. But I actually say metadata is good. So why to leverage your spatial needs? So if you have a need with geodata, I help you to solve it. Now, why do I say all this? Because I do this using open source software with open standards and agile management. And this agile management is, I think, a very good thing to go together with open source. So it doesn't mean that you plan something 5 years before you do it, and then you do it, but you iterate and look at how things evolve during the process of doing it. Okay, I want to give you a perspective on open source. And this is a picture from Denver, where I gave an introduction. It was called Wading into Geospatial, like going into the water with geospatial. The agenda. I start with software development and proprietary and open source thinking, free software licensing, and then I will show a little introduction to the Open Source Geospatial Foundation vision and mission, the formal structures, and geospatial open source software overview. This presentation, you can find it at my website, as many other presentations, and they're all free to use. So if you want to copy slides or give the whole presentation to somebody else, you're free to use everything. You can change it, you can remove my name, whatever you want. Okay, what is software development? Software development is very simple. You have a problem, and software development users, software developers solve this problem. They solve the issue. And then you typically publish the software somewhere. It could be on a USB stick, or it could be on an internet website, or in a code repository, but you have to put it somewhere. And then software users have new requirements, they find bugs, so the code is improved and the new version is released. And this is an iteration. And this iteration never stops. Because if it would stop, I would go out of business. So software is never finished, because everything is evolution. There's a new operating system, new database, bigger data, so you have always to change. Now, in the proprietary environment, you have a motivation, and this motivation is to make money. Now, making money is not bad. Making money is a good thing. We need to pay our rent. We want to have a present for our wife. So, is there any women here? Oh, there's a woman. Or for her husband. But how does this work? If they want the primary motivation is making money, they have a market analysis. So a few very intelligent people go into a room and close all the doors and say, we make a market analysis now. And then they know what we will need in 5 years. And then they tell a development team to develop the software. This is the same thing that we already know. And this development team solves problems, but not all the problems, only after okay from the project management. Because project management might want to say, no, don't solve this feature, we keep it until the next version. So we have a new function for the next version. Because if we don't have this, nobody's going to buy the new version. Why should you buy a new version of Windows if the old Windows worked fine? So the goal is to sell licenses. And at one point you have a product launch. When will they launch their product? When it's finished? When all the bugs are removed? No. They launch the product for the next big Kintex Smart Korea. Or they launch for Christmas. Or they launch for a certain date where they know that they will sell licenses. It's okay. It's a different business model. But you can ask questions. Like, when is the software released? When is new functionality implemented? Who cares if something breaks? Like, you know, blue screen on Windows. Did you ever sue Microsoft? Did you ever get help from Microsoft if you had a blue screen? Probably not. So, how many people develop software? And what do the others do? Like at OSGeo, you have 5,000 people working there, and they have around 300 to 400 developers. What do all the other people do? They sell boxes. They sell boxes in shiny, glossy things and tell you that it is the best software, but they don't know anything about the software. So if you ask them a problem, they cannot really help you. So the marketing engine in proprietary software is very important. Whoops, that was too far. So this is all a little complicated, might feel a bit fuzzy, and so let's make it easier, because we don't see this anyway. All the process that is development in a company is a black box. We don't see what is happening. But the primary motivation is to make money, and the primary task is therefore marketing of differentiation. You have to do marketing. And the associated business model is restriction of distribution channels. That means you don't allow to give away the software, you restrict access. In Asia, there's a lot of piracy, which tries to go around restriction of access. I don't think in Korea it's a big problem, but I just was in Jakarta, and they said, oh, you can get Autodesk for $5. Okay, I'm not good at this. I'm sorry. There we go. So, but this can be much easier than this strange fuzzy black box. Because if the primary motivation is to solve a problem and you publish the source code, then anybody can copy this data. Now, copying is not theft. There's a big difference between material theft and copying. And this is something that we have a hard time to understand. Because we are material, we are things. So if I give you this, I don't have it anymore. So we transfer a good. But what happens if I give you a copy of my software? I still have it. This is strange. So when you think about a cake, and you put it into pieces, and you want to eat the cake, and you share the cake, you only get a small piece. Like, we're too many now, so I will get a very small piece of cake. But if you share software, everybody gets everything. So this is great. And it's different to our normal material world. But our mind is not entirely material. So we may be able to understand if you think about this for some time. And because there's people who know much better to explain this, I'm going to show a little video. So if you look here, this is a federal law, provides several civil and criminal penalties and so on.
Copying is not theft. Stealing a thing leaves one less left. Copying, it makes one thing more. That's what copying's for. Copying is not theft. If I copy yours, you have it too. One for me and one for you. That's what copies can do. If I steal your bicycle, you have to take the bus. But if I just copy it, there's one for each of us. Making more of a thing. That is what we call copying. Sharing ideas with everyone. That's why copying is fun.
Okay, Nina Pali, she's really great. I love her. Okay, let's get a bit more serious again. Back to the open source paradigm. What is the difference between proprietary and open source? Primary motivation is to solve the problem and publish the source code. And the interaction with the users, they improve the software and then release often. And this you iterate. We know this already. We do this again and again. So initially the advantages look rather small. It's okay, we publish things. But if you look at open source development, the source code contains all functionality and only the source code can be modified. Public access to code improves the quality. Typically, bugs are fixed faster. Often more secure due to multiple scrutiny. Many people look at the code, so it will be more secure. And innovation is easier, and users have full control about what they get. And this is the most important thing. And there's many more advantages. If you're a software developer, you want to know how this works, there's a good book by Karl Vogel with more details. So if we look at the open source business model, how does it work? And you will say, oh, the first question you get if you say, I do free software open source. Yeah, but how do you live if you give away for free? I do because I do the same thing as all the other companies. I provide support, training, consulting. I maintain specific distributions. I do special implementation to improve the software. I do bug fixing. And I have service level agreements. And I have maintenance. And because there is no monopolies, it is highly competitive. So I have to be the best to be able to survive in open source business. And this is a big difference. If you're proprietary, everything is yours, it's closed, you are dominating the world. I cannot dominate. If you are a better developer than me, and sure you will be, then I'm out of business. So overall revenue in IT is less than 10% is generated through selling software usage licenses. That means only 10% is the Oracle spatial database license cost, and the rest is installing, getting people to know, migrating the software, getting the new version running, getting the new hardware, and so on. So there's lots of business around, and in Germany it's even less because we have so high prices for pay. And in Indonesia it's a bit different because the pay is different. So you have to find out, but it's not very much. The level of licensing cost is not the most important thing. Now the advantages already appear a bit bigger. Now, how do we restrict copying and why do they do that? Because reselling the same thing again and again is highly profitable. And why is not everything open source? Because the internet emerged in the late 90s. And without the internet, there's no open source. So in the late 80s, when Bill Gates started and he said, oh, we are stealing software from each other, we should charge money, there was no internet. You had to physically ship a diskette or a tape from one place to another to get the software. So you actually had a distribution channel that is complicated. You have to go postage and you have to have a data carrier to put the software on. You don't need this nowadays anymore. So as you don't need this anymore, now they have invented proprietary licenses. And if you look at them, they say, you're not allowed to copy, you're not allowed to modify, you're not allowed to give away, you're not allowed to improve, you're not allowed to install, you're not allowed to do anything. And we can see this again now in the terms of services. And this is another little video that I want to show to you. Okay, so don't steal software, don't do piracy, go for open source right away. Okay, free software licensing, this is the opposite, and there it says you're allowed to, you're free to use it anywhere for any purpose. You can understand it, you can improve it, you can adjust it to suit your needs, and you can collaborate with anybody else. And this is guaranteed. So it's not unlicensed software, it is licensed software, and it's a legal license, and it's reliable. You know that if there is a change, it will take 3 years, and 50,000 people commenting, oh, you can't do this. And you have GNU GPL 2 to 3, oh, what a big discussion. So free software is a legal licensing model. It's a vaccine against proprietary software, and it protects your interests. And the opposite is proprietary software. Do not say it is commercial software, because commercial software is a misnomer. So commercial software is nothing. Open source for me is commercial because I do business with it. So the opposite of open source is proprietary software. So summarizing, we can say that open source is the superior development model. The big business has recognized this long ago and provides full open source services, for example, IBM, Autodesk, Oracle, Esri, and many others. Even Microsoft nowadays recognizes that open source works. So if even the diehards have adopted it, why don't you too? I know you already do, so this slide is okay. Yes, but anybody can call anything open source. And the name does not automatically make better software. So never say open source is better than proprietary software, because you don't know. One project is good, another project is bad. The same with proprietary software. There is good proprietary software, no questions asked. So how do you find out which software is good? What you can do is you can go to the open source compass, and that's OSGeo, and this is the organization that I represent today. If you see this OSGeo shirt, I don't have it today, start to take off my shirt, then you know inside this is open source. Open Source Geospatial Foundation is a non-profit organization founded in February 2006, and it is the leading voice for geospatial open source. Our structures are similar to the Apache Foundation, and we are volunteer-based and funded by sponsorship. The mission is to support and promote the highest quality open source geospatial software. OSGeo goals are to provide resources for FOSS4G projects, that's free and open source software for geospatial, our conference name today, and infrastructure, legal, and financing. And all information you find at www.osgeo.org. We promote free and open geospatial data. We maintain a quality brand. This is the logo. If you see the logo on the software, you know it's good software. Create and promote a free curriculum and standards. This is a word cloud from the website of OSGeo, and you see OSGeo Foundation, support, community, software, open projects. That's more or less what we do. The activities is to support FOSS4G on a global scale, which is why I am here today. Support local activities, facilitate inter-project communication, because many developers, they don't look what is already there, but they go ahead. They reinvent the wheel. It's much better sometimes to talk to each other. So OSGeo is a platform where you can find other people who did the same thing already. Cooperate with them, it's easier. We interface with industry and academia and support the education of domain experts, not brand specialists. So we don't develop a specialist for one software, but we allow everybody to know and learn what they need to get their things done. This was the last conference, the last FOSS4G International in Denver. The next one will be in Beijing, and you're all invited to go there. The FOSS4G conference is the global conference, seed event for local activities, outreach and promotion, inter-project communication, workshops and tutorials, networking and meeting. And I always love to see new versions of FOSS4G like this one coming up, because next year we will be a little more people. And maybe we have a track of tutorials at the site. And in 3 years or in 4 years we have FOSS4G International here. Okay, how is OSGeo structured? This is very simple. We have membership. There's 104 charter members. We have elections soon, and I hope that somebody from Korea will become a charter member. because they elect the board of directors and they appoint the president. And all the software projects, the foundation projects, and the public committees, they have officers. And the officers and the board of directors, they run the organization. But it's very informal, it's very low level. It's not a big hierarchy. So we don't need to do much. It's a very simple organization. But to see how much activity there is, you can see the year 2011, we have 183 mailing lists with unique subscribers, almost 20,000. This was in September, so by now probably we have 20,000 users who are actually on the mailing lists and learn about open source. We do quality control. So we check copyright licenses and ownership of software. So if you have an open source software project and you want the OSGeo logo on your software, you have to go through a quality check. Is the code okay? Is the quality good? Is the license good? Who owns the code? Is there a community? How many people are using the software? Will the software be there in a year? And all these kind of things are things that we check. And only if you can, if you approve this, if this works for your project, then you can become an open source geospatial project. This was the project overview in 2009. And the project stats is we have now 15.8 billion lines of code. That's the big thing. And we have 740 developers and 270 developers who have committed more than 12 months. So this is also, there is a lot of continuity. So by the number of developers, we're about the same size as Esri, which is quite a big thing. And now we have OSGeo Live. It's an enterprise-ready solution of many different software projects. So you see, it's much more chaotic now. We don't have the organized only 15 projects, but now there's many other projects. And this is probably outdated already, so there's more projects now. It gets more every day. Sponsors, a big thank you to INPE and Ordnance Survey. Ordnance Survey is from the United Kingdom. It's the National Mapping and Cadastral Agency, the National Mapping Agency. And they sponsor OSGeo because they use open source software and they think that it's a good thing and so they support it. And you also see several companies who sponsor OSGeo. And last thing is Bolsena hacking event. This is, you can see, like in the middle there in Italy, there's an old monastery, and once in a year there meets 20 to 30 developers in this monastery for 1 week, and they develop software. They don't do anything else. There's no customers, there's no clients, there's no telephone, they only develop software. And they come from Australia and North America and South America, Africa, and from Asia to develop software. So this is a code sprint, and this is very helpful if you have a project where you want to get a new release done and things like this. So this is also something that OSGeo provides. The outlook: foster and support localization of OSGeo software and groups. And I think this is a good place to be, because you need Korean to be translated to English, and you need English to be translated to Korean. Promote OSGeo and FOSS4G to universities and education, because people currently are still educated a lot with proprietary software, and we want to change this. Organize code sprints, and legal support for software projects. Every now and then there is somebody who sues us because we use a name or a patent software, and we take care and help this. And we also want to have some fun. Most importantly, OSGeo works because you participate in the IT process. And participation includes using, learning, and then contributing back to the community. And therefore, open source makes IT a safe investment. And if you want to know more about FOSS4G, I don't have to tell you. You go to your own OSGeo local chapter website. Thank you.